Alright guys, welcome to episode number 2 of Tardis Talk with myself and Elle, in which we'll be recapping what happened in the latest episode, The Witch is Familiar, which seen Davros look to say out his plan in stealing the Doctor's regeneration energy. So Elle, what did you make of this week's episode? Did it live up to the hype?
I think going into it I was a bit apprehensive because Moffat's got this thing where he really builds up the first in a two-parter, and then the second one it's either got a weak finish or something's a bit crap. But it's I really enjoyed it. It had some tough subjects, I guess you could say it touched on euthanasia kind of in a sense, and genocide, and I really enjoyed it.
It did. It had those kind of points in there as well. It wasn't like we've seen in the past where it was really timey-wimey, and that was the whole explanation. We did actually get a Dalek uprising and something that was actually did resolve it in a way that wasn't just left to kind of give a throwaway response to it.
Yeah, and nothing was really reversed. Everything stood how it was, which I really enjoyed, because Moffat does have this thing where he'll make something really cool and then he does the timey-wimey thing and everything's back to how it was. And it is good, but I prefer some really bad things to happen.
Yeah, that is kind of the way he goes. We'll get a lot of the reveals where he'll go back and he'll show you something that you didn't know, and then that kind of explains how something happened. But this way, it all played out the way, as we watched it, where I think one of the things that we kind of speculated on could happen would be that something happened between Davros and the Doctor, and that rewrote kind of a lot of things of how the Daleks were created and stuff, which it did in a little way. But I think when we sort of discuss that further on in this episode, we'll kind of get to that, and maybe whether those changes have always been in place or whether that's something that's just come into it. So I really liked it. I thought it was a great episode. It did serve as kind of a second part of the finale. I thought it was so good, and it just followed on from the first one. So it totally lived up to the hype to me.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's probably one of my favourite two-parters, and also a Dalek episode. It was really strong. Absolutely.
I think these two episodes are some of my favourite ones. They're definitely the favourite Capaldi episodes. And in terms of the Daleks themselves, I think they're right up there as some of the best Dalek episodes we've seen.
It actually made them a threat for once, and there was no way that they'd disappear without fair enough, the Daleks have come back and they all end up having a really weak finish, but they kind of didn't get defeated and they're still going to be out there somewhere as a massive threat.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't really know what to expect from them because these are hybrid Daleks, so there could be something different to them now. There's something that's made them powerful. We don't know how these changes kind of affect them. So going forward, I think this is something that we're going to revisit. And surely not all these got destroyed on Skaro, because a lot of them were outside and flying around. So they weren't all killed in the sort of building collapses. So they're definitely still going to be out there. Now, in regards to what was said in the last episode, we did actually get quite a few things right, I thought, in this episode. So we kind of predicted that missing Clara would still be alive. The TARDIS wasn't destroyed. We got Clara going back to kind of her origins and becoming a Dalek. So we got a Clarlic. And then the Doctor, he went back and, like you mentioned, your theory was spot on, really, that he went back and he didn't shoot Davros. He shot the handmines to save him.
I like how he said we and all of that, and yet basically they were nearing for all my predictions.
Well, hang on, we're doing this together. I'm sure, we'll bounce off each other. We'll come up with these predictions and theories, and without me, these won't happen.
I'll just let you have your little Clarlic thing going on.
Yeah, I'll stick to that. I'll mention that a few times in this episode. So
have to have some bragging rights.
Absolutely, I've got to cling to something. So we've got some talking points. I mean, the first one is the explanation of Missy and Clara and how they survived. And this also covered Missy in the last episode in Death in Heaven last season. So what were your thoughts on this? Because the way they explained it, I'm not too sure I like it. They say that the Doctor was, in the past, he was surrounded by all these invisible robots, and they all fired these lasers at him. So the Doctor, having nanoseconds to live, being such a genius as he is, he was able to program the screwdriver to get all the energy from these beams, power the vortex manipulator, and teleport out there. So that it kind of felt cheap to me to bring this in. It's something that I think could now be used as a way of escaping any time the Daleks fire at him, the Cybermen do. I think it's a cheap way to go. And if he ever gets shot and he has to regenerate from one of them, I'll be like, why didn't you do that? You had plenty of nanoseconds to do it.
But you can only do that if he has a vortex manipulator, and he has said in the past he's not such a fan. So
Surely it's a reason to. I mean, his pockets are deep. He's got all sorts in there, jelly babies and everything. Surely you can keep a spare sunglasses. Oh, I don't want the sunglasses in there. We can throw them out. But I'm sure you can keep like a few spare vortex manipulators in there, just in case.
Yeah, no, you really weren't a fan of it. I don't know. I can't decide like my thoughts on it. I like it and I don't. I think it's a lot worse on paper than it is visually. I think visually they've done like an awesome job. And it was a great way to have like some of the past Doctors come in.
Yeah, it was like that. That's something that we're seeing a bit more now. Like it's kind of Moffat's thing, bringing in like this old footage of like Doctors. I like the way that this is like to get out of having to try and use old footage. This is it could have been any of his faces, so it didn't have to like specifically be done with the old Doctor's face. They could just say like because Clara knows the Doctor currently is Capaldi. Then her sort of imagining this as it's happening, as Missy's explaining it, gives it Capaldi's face. So I thought that worked pretty well.
I like as well that I totally didn't think of it until you said it. Missy like offers Clara to pick a face because obviously she knows all his faces.
Yeah.
And it's not something I really thought of until you just said then.
It's a good point because like Clara stepping into like the time stream, then she's kind of got a glimpse of all the Doctor's past and all of his faces. So it makes sense, the fact that she says that. And then, obviously, Clara, in the current moment, she's with Capaldi as the Doctor, so that's the face that she chooses to imagine it as.
So why did Missy use that escape method? Does that mean she's the Doctor?
Well, you're just throwing that out there as a theory, just in case?
I have to, because like, I'm accumulating this theory that Missy might be like a splinter of the Doctor or something. I know she's supposed to be the Master, but I'm throwing it in there just in case. Just in case?
Is that something you're going to work on then? Present with all the evidence once you've got a case together?
I'm going to get like one of those FBI boards with the string and the pins and just like see where it goes.
You'll have to like present it all in a case and then we can like all discuss it and see if it's like a plausible theory.
Yeah, we can take it to trial.
Absolutely. Doctor Who trial and see if it's any good. We can submit it to Moffat and get his approval. So that kind of covers that. I wasn't too keen on it, but I guess in terms of the storyline, it's a good way to get them out of it and Missy getting shot and bringing her back. So I'm all happy with that. I love Missy. And it kind of sticking with Missy, the next talking point. Now, this is a big thing because it was mentioned in the episode, Missy alluding to the fact that she has a daughter. So this was when she talked about the Darkstar alloy, the pin badge type thing that she had. So she used this to like stab the Dalek. And what she said was the Doctor actually gave it to her when her daughter was something. So we didn't get the end of it. We don't know what she was going to say. So does this mean she's got a daughter?
It's like one of those things where she throws a line out there and then something else happens like really quick, so you can almost forget about it if you don't look for it. Kind of similar to what she said like about the Doctor being a little girl. Absolutely. Like when I first heard it almost passed us by because it was just like a little line in there, and it took us a second to realise, and I was like, what? Missy has a daughter? So like, it's the first time I've ever heard of this. Do you think it could be one that we've already seen in the series? It wouldn't surprise me. If we hadn't seen Clara's mum, I kind of think maybe Clara could have been her daughter. There's a few little theories going on in my head, like in the 50th when the Doctor's left the portrait, mm-hmm. you see a hand come out of the portrait and it's not Clara's, and it kind of looks like it could be Missy, and she's wearing the same ring as Clara. Some people think maybe like it's a splinter of Clara and all this that, but as well when Missy's like running away from the Daleks, she's recognised as a humanoid. So I was kind of wondering, is maybe Missy pregnant now? So you think Missy, she could be pregnant now with her daughter? So maybe like timey-wimey, she's already met her, she knows she's got a daughter, the Doctor knows she's got a daughter, but she hasn't had it yet in this kind of timeline? Yeah, it's all timey-wimey. I can't figure out which one of those I want to go with, but yeah, I definitely think there's a daughter kicking around somewhere. And I know you touched upon it, you think it could be Maisie Williams. Well, I think that's kind of like the obvious choice that they could put in there. It does seem a little bit too simple though. So I think because of that, I don't know if I would really
go along the lines of that's the person that it's going to be. But I think Maisie Williams being like a big star with Game of Thrones, then she deserves to have kind of a big character in this. And being Missy's daughter is certainly a big character.
Does it also mean it's the Doctor's daughter?
What, so the Doctor could be the father?
Yeah. It's not the first time something like that's happened.
It'd be interesting. That we've had like a few lines in the last episode about, I can't remember exactly what Clara said to Missy, but along the lines of them being like best friends, and then Missy talking about not being like the humans do and the Gallifreys don't just mate.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely think we're going to see something. I think we're going to see a lot more into the past. Maybe not the like feuding between the Doctor and Missy. I think we're going to see maybe a softer side of both of them.
Absolutely. I think that's something that we're already seeing with Missy. So I'm really liking kind of the way that they're going with the whole exploring the Doctor and Missy's relationship. It's great to kind of get that, because we haven't seen anything like that in the past, where it's been like John Simmons the Master and we've had David Tennant in there as the Doctor. So like they were kind of against each other. It was hinted that they were friends in the past growing up on Gallifrey, but I like the fact that they're actually exploring this. And with it being Missy, I think it just adds a whole different dimension to it. And like you say, it could be the Doctor is the father to it. Maybe the Doctor has another daughter. And if Missy is the mother, then it could be something that happens in the future. I don't know. I don't know if I would go with that, but it makes sense.
I don't think anything would surprise me anymore. Like, you think something's really simple, but then for Moffat, that's just the start of things.
Absolutely. You'll just build on it until it gets overly complicated, and we'll just be told to accept it. So one other thing that we've got here, it's something else that I'm kind of bugged with a little bit, and that is the sewer Daleks and the way that they uprised against the rest of the Daleks. So what did you make of the sewer Daleks? Not just when they're regenerated, but when we're first introduced to them?
I like the idea because I like the Daleks can't die type of thing. Yeah, in that sense, I like it.
Well, they're genetically engineered so they can't die, so they're always going to be kicking around there.
But yeah, I agree. Like, I don't really see that. I know why the point was there. It was to like use them to kill the Daleks like, later on. Mm-hmm. But aside from that, it doesn't really like serve a purpose.
Well, I think it was just the fact that we're seeing them as like sludge. Like if they were like still like quite Dalek-y, I don't think I'd have too much of a problem with it. But I could understand when she used like the Dark Starlight to actually like puncture the Dalek, and they were able to get inside and attack it. Then I could understand that. I was absolutely fine with that. But then it was the fact that when they did get that regeneration energy and they somehow managed to like come to the surface, how did they get inside like the Daleks that were in like the command centre of it? Because there was no like punctures on their case, and there was no way for them to get in. Surely like they would have been quite protected from them.
They did well, they didn't regenerate, they were renewed, I think they were saying. So maybe they were just stronger and could pierce the armour themselves.
It was just like something that bugged us. I think I would have preferred like something a little bit different, but I get why they were in there. It kind of makes sense. And like you said sort of at the start of this episode, it was an actual uprising. It wasn't something just thrown away timey-wimey where it was rewritten. So I was kind of glad that we got that. It was just, I don't know, it's a little thing that just bugged us about it.
You weren't a fan of the sludge Daleks, so what was it you liked to call them?
I can't remember what I called them. I called them something earlier.
Kinetic fluid.
I don't think I went that far. I kind of just offered the explanation that they all joined together with this regeneration energy, and it was like kinetic energy that allowed them to move. Because surely, like, being sludge, you can't really move too much or anything. You kind of, all your muscles and things have just disintegrated. There's nothing left. So there's no reason, like, you could move. That's my offering of an explanation. Just Stephen Moffat being so lazy there, so I'll just throw that out there. It's all about kinetic energy.
I think I would have preferred maybe if those ones hadn't regenerated and they attacked the other Daleks because it was like an inferior race. Like the Daleks are all about the Daleks. They don't like any other races. And then obviously you've got the Dalek / Time Lord. So I thought that would have been better. But then of course it said that those were like regenerated as well. So it didn't make like a great deal of sense.
Yeah, it didn't. And like, I think what we got in the past episode was like the Daleks having some kind of compassion and the fact that they didn't want their creator Davros to die. So maybe it's kind of the same thing. They don't want the rest of the Daleks, all these elderly Daleks that are ready to pass away and turn into sludge. They don't want them to die either. So it kind of doesn't fit in with the Dalek like mindset. Surely if something wasn't like capable of doing something, it would just destroy it. But with the compassion kind of creeping in, they don't want to destroy their own kind.
But then shouldn't they have compassion for the other Daleks? It doesn't make sense. Like, yeah, there's definitely something missing from there. I think it was like a quick fix. Probably too quick. It
was a quick fix. It felt a little bit cheap. But, I mean, I've just mentioned there that they kind of had some compassion for the Daleks. We also got the kind of reveal that they now also have a concept of mercy. So, did this happen after the regeneration energy, or do you think this has always been the case? Because judging on the ending, the way that the Doctor interacted with Davros, he told him that it doesn't matter what side he's on, as long as there's always mercy. So, to me, that kind of says Davros would then go on and create the Daleks, but he would give them that concept of mercy because of what the Doctor said to him. So for me, I think it's maybe always been there. But do you think that's the case, or do you think that's something that just happened at that point?
I think it's definitely one of two things. Maybe they got it from the Doctor's regeneration energy, and that's part of like the Time Lords and the Doctor having like the ability to do that. But then I also think maybe the Doctor seeing that, like the compassion and mercy from the Daleks, maybe that's what sent him to save Davros. I don't know. Like maybe that. I can't decide. Because there was no like clear explanation where they got it from. I don't think it's something that's going to go back to.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get like a proper explanation on it. I think my kind of reasoning on it was like, if the Daleks all got sort of this regeneration energy, and that was what gave them the concept of mercy, then what we're seeing with Clara early in the episode was she couldn't say things like love. The software would kind of limit her from doing that. So if the Daleks themselves had regenerated and got this concept of mercy, then surely the software would then stop that. So that kind of makes me believe that Davros created them with that software and with that concept of mercy in there.
But then if Davros had done that, then surely when Clara was trying to say those words, surely they could.
Well, I think it's like, it's one of them ones where if she'd said mercy, then it would have allowed her to say it. But because she said those like other words like love and things, then those would still get limited. It would like purely just be that mercy. And you found this earlier, you found a clip of previous Daleks actually saying mercy. So they always seem to have, well, some of them in the past have had that concept.
Yeah, it's I don't know, I think it's either Moffat's been a bit lazy or I don't know, I can't decide. Like, it was definitely a huge thing and it was definitely something they made of it. The only thing I was a bit like bummed out about was I really, really, really wanted Clara to say I am not a Dalek. But for some reason, that Dalek could say it and this one couldn't.
Yeah, that was something I was waiting for, and I seen you tweeting that and I was waiting for that line coming, but it just never come. It was totally a missed opportunity.
I was literally on the edge of my seat going, say it, and it never came.
Oh, so disappointed. So basically, like, that is that little bit covered. One thing that, you know, also bugs me, there's a lot that bugs me in this episode, even though I absolutely loved it, and that is the continuation of the sonic sunglasses. So I don't know how I feel about these. Like, the screwdriver is so cool when you see it, and it's a little toy that I even want. I want to have it. I want the TV remote that is the sonic screwdriver. But when it comes to sunglasses, it's just, you can't really tell when he's using them. I guess that's kind of the whole point of them. And like in this episode, if he knew Davros had his sonic screwdriver, then Davros, when he's seen the Doctor in that time and place, he would know that the Doctor was screwdriverless. So rather than make a new one and Davros find that and take it off him, like, I see the sunglasses as just being something that kind of complements the screwdriver, and it's something that you could use in this episode specifically as a means of like keeping them from Davros, so he didn't know what they were, and he puts them on. It kind of makes sense then, because Davros doesn't know what he's doing. He can use them, and it kind of explains why he says that he knows what Davros was up to, and he could see sort of the wires and things there. And if he's using the sonic sunglasses, you can see that those wires aren't actually wires, and it's calmly off.
Yeah, like, but then he just say like he's over screwdrivers. Maybe he's having like a midlife crisis.
Well, there's some like evidence to support that. I mean, coming out on a tank with a guitar, sunglasses on,
and like hipster trousers.
Absolutely. Well, I think they were maybe a throwback to one of the past Doctors.
Yeah, I remember the first Doctor wore them as well,
So it was kind of cool, but in terms of the sunglasses, I just hope they get stepped on rather quickly.
Yeah, so it's not even like anything special. It's literally a generic pair of sunglasses.
It is. That's like the disappointing part of it. But I think there's something that probably won't stay around. I don't think they'll like sell too well being so generic. Whereas a screwdriver, I think there's money to be made there. So I think they'll jump back to that pretty quickly.
I was actually surprised that there wasn't like a massive uproar like, about this. I know people weren't happy, but I was expecting like not mass news coverage, but something that usually generates press, and like I was surprised to not see that.
Yeah, I'm surprised a lot of people haven't complained about it as much as like I thought they would. Like if you go on forums and things and Reddit, then there are people complaining there, but it's not like the mass outcry that I kind of expected. I think people probably just think, you know, these are just something that we're going to get temporary, and they served a purpose in this storyline, so it kind of made sense.
Like you said, I think I'd be okay if it was like a complimentary thing to this Sonic Link screwdriver, but as a thing on its own, it's really lazy. Like if it had been something like Tennant's 3D glasses, I'd have really loved that. That would have been like really cool. But I think we know the screwdriver will come back because we still have where the Doctor's going to give River like the screwdriver, so we know that one has to come into play at some point. So you will go back to it. It's just like as and when.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you mentioned with Tennant having the 3D glasses, it is kind of the same tech. So it's something we've seen in the past, and that didn't stick around. So this will probably just be the same thing. I think it's just a phase.
Yeah, people also pointed out as well that in one of the classic series, the TARDIS wasn't about, and then the Doctor had like that car Betsy as opposed to the TARDIS. So we know it can work. It's just I think maybe we're a bit too picky.
It's a good point. I think it's something that they'll bring in, and then it's not something they're going to change because obviously there would be like such uproar. So it's something that they'll probably go back to. But I guess it's good to get like something a little bit different, especially in a storyline like this where it kind of makes sense.
And it kind of distinguishes Capaldi because so far like, he really hasn't anything that it's like his own. I thought maybe the guitar was going to be that, but I think that was maybe a one-off.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the next kind of talking point that I want to bring up here, it was something that was kind of from the last episode, because when we started out, we had Missy with the confession dial, and we didn't know how she got that. So in this episode, one thing that we do see is when the Doctor had sort of escaped from Davros's plan, he picked up his possessions, including that confession dial, and put it in his pocket. So do you think this then means that the Doctor takes that confession dial and he delivers it to Missy to set these kind of motion all in event?
That's a good point, actually. Like, I think it's definitely something that could have glazed over, and that'll probably come back later on. Kind of like the Impossible Astronaut, like where the Doctor sent the letters, that like came back later on. So I definitely think we'll see it again. But whether it'll turn up that he's going to send it to Missy or we're going to finally find out what's on there, I don't know. Yeah,
absolutely. I would love to see what's on there, but like with the whole fact of it not opening until he dies, then it's kind of like a point where, well, he's never going to fully die, so I don't really see this ever opening. And I think in terms of what is there, the confession, it could be something that we do get in a storyline anyway. We just won't know that that was actually in the confession dial.
We don't know as well if that's like specific to a certain regeneration film. Like Matt Smith's Doctor thought he was going to die, so why didn't that come into play then when he thought he was out of regeneration?
Well, that's a good point. He could have had the confession dial since then, so it could be something that happened in the past. And even though we think like it could have been sort of a confession about Davros and not helping him, then maybe it's something that he's always had and it's in relation to something else. So he's always been carrying that round, and if he had died as Matt Smith's Doctor, then it would have then been passed on to Missy.
It's definitely interesting. I definitely think it's going to crop up like a few more times to tease us before the series is out. And I've kind of got the impression that Capaldi probably won't last as long as people thought, because there is like a lot of talk about him like dying. Like Davros brings up the point that he's going to die and like compassion will be the end of him if he's not careful and things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is like his farewell tour at the minute, and we know like Clara's going as well. So it's kind of that point where they could have Clara go, and then the end of the season, the end of the Christmas special, if Capaldi was to go as well, then they can start out fresh with, I don't know, maybe a new writer, a new Doctor. It's all fresh, and we can kind of see which way the show goes that way.
It's definitely like the great thing about Doctor Who. Once things become still, that I'm not saying they are still, but if something becomes like a bit complacent, you can easily switch that out, and that's probably one of the most brilliant things about the show compared to like a lot of boring things. Because with other shows, you have to kill someone off, whereas Doctor Who, you can just regenerate and freshen things up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing about Doctor Who that you absolutely love. And, you know, you may not like every single Doctor, but what you can do with the show being so good like that is if you don't like a certain actor, then you can just kind of skip those ones. And then if someone comes in that interests you, you can jump in and it's going to be fresh. And you don't really need to know what's happened in the past. It's always a good point to start when there's a new Doctor comes in.
Definitely. It's definitely something like with the companions as well. And that's like the great thing. Like no one series is the same as the last.
Yeah, they're all completely different. So with each Doctor, you get something completely different. And it's kind of like a different show altogether. Like, they're so different when you compare, like, Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant, Matt Smith, and now Capaldi. So it's a completely different show within a show.
But then it makes it, like, what happened to Missy? Because is Missy dead? Like, is she going to be, like, a new companion?
Well, that's kind of the question that we've got is the last talking point. We don't really know what's going to happen with Missy, so this is something that we'll have to speculate about, because we're seeing her trapped at the end, surrounded by Daleks, and she didn't actually have the Vortex manipulator, so as I say, the Doctor should always carry a spare. Maybe Missy should as well, because that might just help out this situation. How do you see it going?
Well, if you remember at the very start of the episode, when Missy's talking about like how the Doctor escaped, she used that escape method, and then at the end of that story, the Doctor runs into vampire monkeys, and Missy says, I'll save that explanation to how he escaped for another time. So I think however the Doctor escaped that in the past story or whatever, I think that's going to be exactly the same method that Missy used, and we'll find out later on whenever she does come back.
Yeah, I think that is an absolutely amazing point. I was so surprised that you actually picked up on that. Like, it's something that they could easily go back to and kind of continue that story that they started telling, because the Doctor was surrounded by those at that point, just like Missy is by these Daleks. So whatever way he used to escape that could be how she escapes this, unless they save her, the flying monkeys.
Well, yeah, the flying monkeys could easily turn up and then they'll all go off to Oz.
Absolutely, it could be a completely different kind of Doctor Who, but there's so many different ways they could do it. Like, the Daleks having this concept of mercy, maybe they could let her go. Do you see that happening?
With her being a Time Lord, probably not, because I can't imagine a Dalek being merciful to a Time Lord, especially one like Missy.
Yeah, well, she's got sort of previous with the Daleks as well, so I don't think they'll let her off for that. But I don't know, maybe she could even like offer to save them, because we're seeing like all hell breaking loose and all these Daleks dying because of the uprising. So I thought maybe it's something that, you know, Missy could take these hybrid Daleks and save them, and because they're part Dalek, part Time Lord, maybe she could lead them off on an adventure to try and find Gallifrey and then overtake it.
She might just like overthrow Davros. She did poke him in the eye and things. He can run off with Saf. Wherever he went, I haven't got a clue, because Davros sent him off on like a little plan, and that was like the last we saw him for the entire episode. So maybe they're going to go off on their own, and like you say, maybe the Daleks will join with Missy, because it's not the first time she's messed with like hybrids. Like they had the Cybermen from the Death in Heaven scenario.
Absolutely, that's another great point. Like, she's already mixed with some of the enemies before, so there's nothing really stopping her to mix with these. Although it is like kind of the Daleks saying anyone not Dalek is an enemy. That's the only kind of thing that stops it. But I think Missy leading the Daleks would be a really cool way to go with it. And in terms of like the season finale, we've got all this in the first two episodes. So if it was to lead into the end and we see Missy sort of charging in with all these Daleks, I think that would be like leading to an amazing finale.
Oh, definitely. And you have to remember as well that they are part Time Lord now. So maybe that concept, maybe they'll be a bit more forgiving of Time Lords. I definitely think we're going to see maybe Gallifrey and maybe like the Time War again. Because as Davros said, there was like the prophecy about something on Gallifrey that everyone was scared of, and was it like this hybrid thing? So I definitely think we're going to come back to that, and like maybe that'll be the finale.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the way this season set up all the two parts, it gives them plenty of time to sort of go over them and spend like not just 45 minutes of an episode to like wrap things up, but to like tell the sort of whole story across two episodes where they've got plenty of time. And like leading into the finale, I think this season like could be an absolutely amazing season.
Oh, definitely. Like, the sky's the limit with these first two. I definitely think it'll be hard to follow.
It really will. They've been so good. So that kind of brings one to the last question, and this is the big one. Where did the Doctor get the cup of tea?
Well, I don't know the answer to that one. I don't know about you.
Well, I think this was kind of just Moffat having a bit of a joke with people like us that kind of read into a lot of these situations. So the Doctor's own answer was just, I'm the Doctor, so just accept it. So I kind of take that as a message to the fans and all of us that are like picking up on all these little lines and coming up with all these crazy theories. And I think that's just him taking a shot at us. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe just slip that in like after all my wacky theories from last week.
Yeah, absolutely. He's seen your, he's listened to all your theories and he thought, you know what? People are reading too much into this. We'll just throw this line in and try and get them to stop it because we're putting too much pressure on him.
He went and did that and then I predicted that Missy was the Doctor, so it's not going to stop me.
Well, if I was him, I would steal that.
Yeah, I'd steal that.
It's a nice twist.
It's a really good idea. He's just going to go with something simple, I bet.
Absolutely. He'll be timey-wimey.
Yeah, timey-wimey with no real explanation.
So that kind of covers pretty much all the questions for it. There was a couple of other things I just want to point out because I thought there was a lot of throwbacks and references to past episodes. So I love the fact that sort of when Clara come in and she was inside the Dalek, we actually got inside the Dalek in this episode. So it was a great throwback to her first episode. And then we also had the Doctor acting like Clara did when Danny died and kind of holding the Daleks as a hostage to bring her back. So it was kind of like a throwback to that episode. I thought it was really cool just to get those little things in there.
It's definitely something that Moffat's really good at. In a way, I hope he doesn't rely on it too much because too much of a good thing can be bad.
Yeah, it's kind of like the old past Doctors bringing in the footage. We got that again, in this episode. So it's something that he does rely on in the past, a lot of all these little elements that he brings to the show.
I can't help geek out though when it does, when I saw I can't remember which Doctor. I know the first one was there. And then we had the Tom Baker one.
Yeah.
I couldn't help geek out when I did see it, but then I kind of think, if he didn't do it as much, maybe I'd be even worse.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so cool to see. I love it when he does it. I don't have a problem with him doing it. But like you say, it could be a case of if you do it too much, then it loses that kind of special feeling. But at the minute, I'm just loving it.
I'm definitely loving it. It's interesting as well that it only happens when it's something to do with Clara. So maybe we're going to finally wrap up the Splinter Clara things. Now that she's going, maybe there's going to be some sort of payoff from all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing I'm looking forward to. Clara, now seeing that she is going, it means we've got all these episodes and we can wrap that up. And it looks to be done in advance. So it's something that they can have planned for and really kind of bring that whole arc together.
Fingers crossed, because I don't need any unexplained questions.
Absolutely, I'd hate that. So that brings us to the end of this episode of TARDIS Talk. But let us know your thoughts on the episode itself and all the talking points that we discussed, including our theories. So who is Missy's daughter? What did you think of the sonic sunglasses? And what happened to Missy at the end? How did she escape? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And until next time...
See you later.